Hi guys, we're going to look at these forms here. All right, so we're taking a look at the buyer agency, exclusive right to buy buyer agency contract. So you have a buyer, you've given them the agency disclosure relationship form, and you're now talking about the buyer agency agreement. You have a discussion with them that in today's real estate world, there's not always a buyer's agent's fee, or there could be a low buyer agent's fee and that you want to charge a minimum. And so in this particular example, I'll put 3% as the buyer agency fee. And as we go down to number 17, you see that I put a range, contingencies, 2.5% to 6% is agreeable buyer's agent fee range. The reason why we're doing that is some of the fees in the MLS, you see them all over the place. I just recently sold a a Lennar home, and it paid a 6% fee. So these are going to be case by case. If I'm selling a $2 million house and maybe it's a 2% fee, maybe I find that acceptable and that's okay. If I'm selling a $100,000 condo, I may want to change this to a minimum of 3%. But at least they know that there is a range. And when you go up to compensation, right here in this 5A, the paragraph states buyer agrees that the greater amount shall become the new amended fee. Let me back up. In the event that compensation being offered to the broker from the transaction is greater than the above dollar amounts or percentage amounts, including any bonuses, buyer agrees that the greater amount shall become the new amended brokerage fee. Now, our legal counsel has stated that even though it says that, and even though we're giving a range, that we need to have confirmation and disclosure of the buyer of what the fee is going to be. And so how we're going to do this in a situation where let's say the buyer's agent's fee is 2% and they've signed this, that the minimum is 2.5. We're going to use form 120. And on form 120, you will see that it's the compensation agreement. I want you to list the listing brokerage. I want you to name the seller, and I want you to name the buyer. But you're going to check off right there the seller, because the seller is going to be paying it. All right. Or actually, you could do the listing brokerage as well. If the listing brokerage wants to dispute that they want to pay you from their half, that's fine. But we're being compensated. I think it should be the seller though. All right, so we've got the term, the compensation amount here. So you're having the conversation with the buyer, Mr. Buyer, that you've picked out a listing that doesn't pay our minimum fee, and they're only offering 2%, and we're going to present your offer, and we're going to ask that the seller pay the minimum compensation to our firm of 2.5%. So you'll prepare this, and I want you to have the buyer sign it. So you have the buyer sign it there. You've got their name listed. Then you're going to go back and present the offer to purchase. And the offer to purchase will not mention the compensation agreement, but the compensation agreement will be, it could be attached to your PDF, and you should disclose to the listing agent, our offer is subject to our buyer agency agreement that our compensation is 2.5%. The buyer is asking the seller to pay that 2.5%. So remember, the compensation agreement, or you could have the buyer just pay you at closing. That's another way to do it. You wouldn't have to make the amendment if the exclusive right was the correct amount. I didn't mean to confuse you. Let's say it's 3%, just like it's written. You don't have to do a compensation agreement. If in the MLS is 3%, your buyer agency contract is 3%, then you don't need to do anything else. If this amount here is different from the compensation you're receiving, then your buyer agency agreement needs to be adjusted. Either you can correct it here, cross that out, put the amount that it is. Let's say it's a bonus and you're getting paid 4%. You change that to 4 and they would initial it. That's one way to do it. or you can just, you could have the MLS sheet showing the 4%, and you could have them initial that where it says buyer agent's fee, but as long as it falls in within this range. All right, guys. Well, good luck to you, and call me if you have questions.